Yeah. I think it should be.
Yeah. Your golden birthday must have
Birthday's Carol's Valentine's Day. I got a great birthday. Takes all the pressure off.
Lots of treats to Laura. Really find it.
Beer anything from Aaron?
No, I was just asking what's over there. I wasn't. Okay, well, it's 5 o'clock, so let's start, everything slip in, because everybody is here. I'm not sure what we're gonna announce each one, so. I guess we'll get a Parks Commission update. So our Commissioner, Brian Locke, will give us an update on the park goals. And Dory's going to talk about the rebranding of the golf course. All right. Take it away.
Get it? All right. Every year, as you guys know, we go through a process of identifying the focuses for the coming year, and we've done that. We had a work session in January, and then we finalized our goals last meeting, and I've been asked to come and present them to you guys and get some feedback and so forth. The general narrative here is that we've got a lot on our plate this year. So we've got a lot of work, but luckily we have some good commissioners like Gordy and the rest of the team to do it. So one of the things we did, just a general comment, is that we've had to, with so much on our plate, we've had to whittle down kind of our subcommittee groupings even further. So everyone, all the park commissioners is going to go a little bit deeper on each of these goals and probably be involved in fewer things. So I guess I'll go from the top to the bottom. This is in no particular order, except for maybe it was in some order last year, I don't know.
Added to the bottom.
Okay, yeah, first in, first out, I don't know. All right, so Summit Beach, so that is really two-pronged. One is that for a couple of years now, we've had plans to do a playground or some sort of play setting at the park. And it's been on our CIP, and it's now on for next year. So we need to finalize that concept. There's been lots of talk about whether to do kind of standard playground set or do something a little bit more natural that fits the park a little bit better. And I think that we're exploring all avenues there. The second part is then responding to and deciding the direction on anything that relating to a proposal that might come from the Road Club. So Jan and myself and Rick Carter are the three commissioners who are focused on that. There will be on the playground setting, there is a opportunity to get a grant, and that is due in April this year, so we need to kind of get our act together in the next month and a half, and to put in a request to see if we will then get some funding that would then be constructed in 2023.
With that grant, how specific do you have to be, or can you come in with this playground equipment, we think it's gonna be X amount of dollars, and then still give yourself enough time to determine?
Yeah, then we don't have to lock into design, we probably would help to provide one option,
Okay,
but they don't.
We have to give them a copy of quotes.
okay, got it. So you, but you can still fit it within.
You can adjust once the grant is awarded within the intent of the grant. So
Okay,
if you decide you want a purple slide instead of a green slide, no
I'll leave
problem.
that up to you guys.
I think this is the Hennepin County Sports or Youth Sports Program. There are 3 different programs within that, and the playground grant is pretty straightforward. It's just a form you fill out. You don't get a lot of fluff in there, so they're not looking for a lot of specifics. Anything else on that? I'll move on. So we have, as you know, Jan and who's been focused a lot on the tree lighting event. We had a spectacular event last year, and we're going to obviously do a lot of planning this year. We had a follow-up meeting after in early January, I think, and had a lot of ideas on what to do different going forward and how to maybe do fundraising a little bit different and engage with some of the local businesses a little bit different than we had before. And so we combined these two things kind of together, the planning of community events at the parks and the creating a fundraising program is going hand in hand in our eyes. We're going to work on it together. And then as far as events itself, the tree lighting is the only one on the schedule for this year officially, but looking for any input or ideas from you guys. But the other, Josh is in the process of hiring, if he hasn't already, a manager at the golf course, which part of their responsibilities will be event coordination at the golf course, and so I could see that some special events or days or whatever could be happening at the golf course that are just kind of handled internally mostly.
And at the music and.
Yeah,
other
exactly.
kind of events is gonna get people over there, so.
Exactly.
I think the new interview, that's on the,
Some of the
it's
challenges.
on the agenda for 2 weeks.
Great.
And the way we wrote that job description is broader than just events at the golf course, it's events throughout the entire park system. So if there are other things beyond the tree lighting in the future, then we have somebody on staff to help
Yeah, so
do that coordination.
the idea is to get that person in, and if they have some ideas of what they want to do this year, we help support them. But right now, the only official event we have is the tree lighting.
Okay.
Okay. As you know, the 501c3 is being pivoted as well. That's the last thing we will put on here is, to the extent there's a need to build that working relationship between us and that organization, that would also fall within the scope of this community. All right, third one, trails. So we have some very specific priority of trail ideas that we have that started in the comp plan, and Rick has done a very good job of following that prioritization. The first one is Loose Line Dakota Trail Connection, which is it's working with Three Rivers and Henry County and Met Council, thank you, to continue to talk about that connection, I should say.
Right, so that's just looking at opportunities, primarily those trail connections would be in Hennepin County right-of-way, county road right-of-way. And there are some opportunities upcoming in combining projects that the Met Council has on their books for their sewer interceptors, and then also things that Three Rivers and Hennepin County have on theirs, and ensuring that we continue to make sure that our sister agencies know that we are very interested and invested in furthering those trail connections as those opportunities present themselves. This is looking at basically a connection kind of in our southern area along County Road 51 that would allow a connection between the Loose Line up Old Crystal Bay Road and the Dakota Trail as it goes through the Crystal Bay neighborhood.
The second one is the general, Rick is a big cross-country ski fan, and he's identified an opportunity to look at some of our parks and see where we can create some more cross-country ski trails. Third one is Lowry Woods, which is trying to tackle the problem that the city has right now, which we have this lovely park that no one can get access to. So there's the Loose Line Trail goes right next to it, and it would be nice to be able to access the Lowry Woods from the Loose Line Trail. We've talked a lot about Lowry because of mountain biking and so forth. At this point, that is not what we're talking about here. We're just talking about simply being able to have our residents access this great park. And if they can't access the great park, then I don't know what we would do with that park. But that's something that is a hot topic in the community right now, and so Rick is a great person. He's on it. He's able to connect with the community and try to get the right feedback from the community about what to do with this problem that we have and steer it forward.
So it's fair to say there is no intent for mountain biking in Lowry Woods. Just because we have a few people here that are interested in that, but
There are no plans,
got it,
no plans,
got it. So,
no interest,
okay, yeah, so,
no need.
and I've talked to a few residents that do border Lowry Woods, and we've talked about would they potentially be interested in providing an easement, a walking easement, and we could do things like no bikes beyond that, which would essentially restrict bikes. We could do things like, I'm not committing to it, but like we could explore marking the parkland with, markers, because I don't think it's marked right now. So those are things that we could do, even putting a bike rack at the beginning, making it clear, leave your bike here tied up. I think, the residents that I have talked to were just, they were fearful, and they were told that once that, they let us in, that it's gonna happen again, that the bikes are gonna sneak in. But what I would offer to them, and I've shared this with you, just so you guys know that it makes no sense to own a park that your residents can't access. And, you know, I think it's a fair request to be able to access land. You can put, put an easement that has restrictions on the easement, that actually make sure you have the right kind of activities, so just so you guys know, so in case you do get those conversations happening, that the parks and I are trying to figure out what that would look like, and there are some residents that are interested, so. That will hopefully come back, as I told Soren, I will not be drawing up any easements. I'll come back to you guys, just trying to foster the conversation, so. But thank you.
So that's great. So, we do have a big and growing, interest in mountain biking trails in our community here. There's a mountain biking team over at the school, and, is interested in exploring different locations. We don't have a location right now identified. It's not going to be Lowry Woods, but we don't have a good location identified right now, but that's just something that I think that it's on the goals for this year, because we need to decide whether it's going to happen or it's not going to happen, and then move on. So,
What kind of space would they be looking for, right? I don't know, how big?
well, I don't think that they're real picky. I think that
Got it.
they want, it's as much about the type of terrain. I mean, they can go on the loose line right now, and there's no challenge there, right? So, but,
That's
Some
not
of the
really
big
well,
models are,
yeah, sure.
Or the ruts that keep popping up in certain parts, that would make for an arduous climb.
Yeah.
So we don't, there's nowhere to get identified off the top of your head.
We're always talking about different ideas, but I've never gone out to see any place. I don't know that anyone else has.
That's good, it's good to learn.
Yeah.
If there's a location that makes sense.
Do you guys have any questions on that one specifically? County Road 19, connect the Dakota Trail to Narrows Bridge. South of Narrows Bridge is a trail, what, is that Excelsior? That's Tonka Bay, right? And so the idea is to try and explore going from the Dakota Trail down to the Narrows, so the bikes can continue thereafter. So. And we had talked a couple times with Three Rivers about Diamond Lake Trail, which is going to go through Orono, a large part of Orono, and East Long Lake Trail, but then it was redirected, and it's going to just touch in Orono, just a short pathway. So, you know, we just want to make sure that we're keeping in the loop on that. Those plans. Maybe it'll go back first route.
That's okay.
not a private property.
Yeah.
We need it for that first round.
Okay, next one, golf course. We made some great progress last year on the golf course. Not the least is finding Josh out there to help us move forward, finding recruiting Gordy to be a part of this officially and so forth. So I think that as I was it last year? I was in front of you guys, I think in April, talking about the success of the golf course. It continues to be very successful from a business perspective. There continues to be lots of opportunities there for us to turn that thing into something that is even better experience than it is right now. And we've identified those things. Some of them include expanding the food options, and we're pursuing that right now. And Gordy is going to talk also about our ideas for rebranding the course and so forth after this. But do you have anything right now you want to add to this?
Or you just want to just jump into it now and let Brian take a breather?
Sure.
Thanks for giving me an audience here to present this. Brian and Josh have kind of heard this a couple times, so I'll try to yeah, just along the lines of what Brian's been saying, obviously the course has had a lot of success here through the pandemic, and really this is all rooted in just trying to find ways to preserve that success and keep people coming back. A lot of people that have golfed there for the first time, or maybe first time in a long time. By all accounts, it appears to be thriving, and there's no reason it shouldn't, but I think we need to be thinking of ways to continue people coming back. And one way to do that on kind of the lower cost, potentially higher impact scale is to rebrand the golf course, and especially as we're approaching the 100-year anniversary, and a lot of what I'm going to talk about here is really rooted in the history of the course. So just for starters, you can look at the next slide, just to give some quick historical context for the site. This is kind of small, but I'll move this quick. So the site where Orono Golf Course, the first owner was a guy named Edward Walsh. I don't know any relation to Danny, but
Irish are all
so anyway, that was in 1859 when the state was just born, and over the next 65 years, the Walshes had a extensive fruit and berry business on the property, primarily just apple orchard. That's why the subdivision was called Orono Orchards, and so that was really what it was for the first 6 decades or so. And in 1924, Edward Walsh decided to plat and sell the property, and he sold it to a guy named Leo Fesser, who's on the right. Leo Fesser was the first superintendent of Woodhill Country Club, and so he sold it to him on a contract for deed where over a number of years he was able to pay it off, but he improved it all at once. And go to the next slide. The course started operating in 1924 with very basic means, and then over the next couple of years, with the help of Woodhill's ground crew, they continued to make improvements to the course. 1926 was when the clubhouse was built, and that's where the Fessers lived for the next close to 40 years. And the course, as it was created, was called Orono Orchards Golf Course. You can see in the upper right there, that's kind of hard to read. That's the closest thing we could find to an original scorecard for the course, but Orono Orchards was kind of the main 2 words of the golf course. And the course is historically significant in the golf world in Minnesota. It was the first privately owned public course in the state. It was also one of the very first courses to use grass greens. Before that, they had used kind of the oil sand mix for greens. So, and there's strong connections with Woodhill and the greens that Woodhill's kind of become known for, with a certain strand of bent grass, the same grass that's still at Orono. So, it's kind of a sturdy green, and probably part of the reason why a lot of lost many greens over the years. But and then in 1965, they turned over management to the kind of what we know today to the city of Orono. So, again, these are just what I could find from past scorecards in the upper left. Another version of the scorecard was in the bottom left there, but not really any significant logo or mark. And then in the upper right, it's hard to read there, but the monument just says Orono Golf. And then at some point, and I apologize, I don't have a whole lot of history as to how we arrived at the mark we have today, but it's fine. I feel like moving back towards the original name and an updated logo that also kind of serves as a reference to broader seasonality with the winter months, and we want to continue to emphasize winter activities there. That now is a good time to look at that. So case for rebranding, I said, this is kind of a tagline I came up here. With such a rich history and beautiful setting, Orono Golf Course needs a name and logo that projects a classic and tasteful brand for a golfing experience that's social, fun, challenging yet playable, and played in a charming setting that can enjoy all seasons. Orono's had a wonderful years the last 2 years. It's important we keep these people coming back and change the name back to Orono Orchards Golf Course with the new logo as well time as we enter this newly energized era and approach the 100-year anniversary in 2024. Next slide. I'll bring all this, but this just talks about the importance of social media. Particularly younger golfers. That's where they're consuming basically all of their marketing content these days. It can be done quite effectively for minimal cost. Certainly help to have a general manager on board to help administer this program and, help with the postings and the messaging and, a lot of things we're talking about, having more events and league play and food trucks, that kind of stuff. And there's always going to be a reason to reach out to people and, constantly communicate with folks. And so with that would be an updated website. Right now, in my opinion, the website's a little awkward and kind of how it's situated within the city website. I think perhaps we should explore kind of moving that out onto its own. It would kind of be serviced on the back end by the city, but it's kind of more of its own standalone thing. And have, again, kind of better just marketing and branding presence with it. And then physical items we need for this would be, new scorecards, pin flags, walk-off mats, repainted monument stone, and T-box signs. I think estimated cost that would be around $700. This doesn't need to happen all at once. We can pull this out over, over the course of this year. And hopefully by next year we can have it mostly in place, but so here's our current mark. It directly refers to golf only, public golf. So it's not as versatile for all seasons, and there's limitations of apparel for this logo. We haven't really sold any apparel there in the last couple of years. We've done some hats, but that's
They're a little dusty.
that's real dusty. So
They're not gonna be antique, so.
yeah. So just injecting new life into the whole apparel program there. So next slide. So these are some different marks that consider. I've got some close friends in the branding world that help me out with this. So they range from kind of traditional, the top left and center, more of a retro look in the upper right, and then the bottom are kind of more modern approaches, and then kind of a truly classic approach in the bottom right. So we looked at these as a group in our work session maybe a month ago, and everybody pretty quickly gravitated towards the top left. Go to the next one. So this is the logo that we would recommend. It's a classic typeface. This was a font that was often used in the early 90s, Apple, Nike, and Oakley ads. It's a great font, very traditional styling, but it also has a modern feel to it. And Orono Orchards can refer to a place that's more than just golf, so multiple seasons and other activities, and then lots of great options here for apparel. Excellent. So here it is, just kind of standalone with 2 words. And you can see the O in the flag is that same O from the original scorecard, kind of that off-kilter O from the original scorecard. And with the orchard reference, I thought it'd be really cool if we could also, embrace the apple orchard concept, like let's plant some apple trees around the property. Maybe there's a basket of apples, and you get a free apple when you pay for your round. Just kind of lean into that a little bit as a healthy snack, laying out there. Next one. Here it shows in kind of more of a singular format, but I think referencing 1924 is going to be important in all these. Next one. Here it is, just in green and white. Next one. Just the apple alone. You can easily see this on a golf shirt or a hat. Look really cool. Okay, next one. So here's some samples of pin flags, what that could look like, and we would need to spend some time as a group to really dive into what would be best here. Next one. Here's my very crude attempt to show the PowerPoint. So apologize for that, but I think it's really clean and looks nice. It's very inviting. Next one. And here's what, kind of a new swag program could look like: hats and sweatshirts, ball marks, and all that kind of stuff. So we still need to further evaluate the timing here with the staff, including the UGM. That would be some of the important piece of the equation here, and then explore lead times for all those items I listed off there. I don't know, we haven't even really started that, so we can really get our arms around kind of what that would all look like and really firm up the costs. In the meanwhile, I have secured Orono Orchards Golf Course Instagram handle. So, we can start doing postings on that when we wanted to. But ideally, this would be done in tandem with the kitchen upgrade project we've been talking about. I think just to give, a reason to kind of say, make a bigger splash, to say, hey, there's, we've got expanded food and beverage, new logo, come on with the course. And then, would like to have this rolled out ideally by next season, possibly still this year. We did talk about in our last Parks Commission meeting, maybe kind of placing the logo in the lobby, just kind of seeing how people react to this over the next month or so, and just kind of get some general feedback from, community and neighbors and everyone else, just seeing how people take to it. And so we can report back once we've done some more work on this, but, the thought is that we would like to propose changing the name back to the original name of Orono Orchids Golf Course and move out.
Yeah, it's cool that you're bringing it back to where it was.
Especially in conjunction with some of the other stuff moving forward, if there's anything that happens with tree lighting, bringing your stuff out there and sliding. And this whole new back is, these pillboxes is just small. But way back when it's small.
How many people actually lived in one time? There's just one guy and that's it?
No, he had a family there. Yeah, there's references to his kids that were involved.
There's 3 bedrooms.
There's 3 bedrooms
Yeah.
upstairs.
They're not big, they're
Yeah.
accurate.
I was up here.
Yeah, it's,
They're very short.
I love the going back.
yeah.
It's really very, much better. I still like logo too better though, I love the logo. Cause I kind of like that classic look, I like the trees in the background, kind of the orchard appeal, but I understand where you're going with the apple. It is cool, and I think getting into the old orchard grove it's great marketing.
I think it's got good depth from a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
It can go a lot of different places with that, and it's just, you can take it.
That's fine. It's a great story.
So you know it's apple pie on a little fish. Birdies.
There you go.
So I think that we're approaching this in kind of 2 phases. One is to ask you where to go, or to consider the name change first. And then once that's in place, then we can either move forward or adopt, the branding that he has, or explore other
Because I
brands.
think you guys made a motion and vote. Like a meeting.
Yes.
Move forward.
Yep.
So is that, I don't think that's not really on the agenda. is it?
Not for tonight, no, they wanted to come, socialize it with you this evening, and then we'll get it on as a formal, agenda in the near future.
I think it's great. I appreciate you guys taking a look at it.
So we talked for years for just getting more and more and more with the golf course. And just making it just more and more, keeping to the place, besides just off, the facilities there, just kind of, figure out how we do everything else, talking about the buildings, and weddings, and guns, and whatever, so there's lots of possibilities.
Also, it's just consistent attendance and people showing up and also spending more money than they have in the past. With food and bev, and that all starts adding up and building a case for the next improvements.
We have to have something to build,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it hasn't been a whole lot. But
Well,
there's
yeah,
people are very
it's
happy.
exciting, and you guys definitely made that out of the ballpark.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
yeah.
You did a great job.
Do you want to give an update a little bit with the kitchen improvements, and at least what progress we've made?
Yeah,
over the last
so,
couple months?
we engaged with an architect that's helping on the committee at Woodhill, and an architect that's helped us out over there with James Gate Design. He gave a tour of the clubhouse. We've since submitted a consultation with the health inspector, $160. They come out, they talk to you about, okay, if we want to do this level of food items, and we put together some little, menu, and it's pizza, hot dogs, and popcorn. It's so kind of very basic, kind of what you'd see like at a arena concession stand. There would be a hood or anything like that. Where a couple things are borderline, like an e press and an air fryer. So those are kind of like, to get direction from the health inspector on what you need to do if you wanted to utilize those things. So that'll hopefully happen even this week, and then from there, we'll work with the architect, give us a little proposal for, his services and us, with that really scope and budget from there, and hopefully this is something in the 10 to 20 grand range to fix up the kitchen and, by this summer, and hopefully be able to offer, expanded food, and roast pizza and hot dogs, popcorn,
real basics, which right now it's not able to do.
And I would say too, if you're gonna do it, make sure you do it right the first time, so you don't come back and say, oh, later we want to add this item, but now this is what we did.
Yep.
It's gonna cost us twice as much to do this, you know, let's think forward as much as we
It's
can.
a small thing, we're not gonna be able to move stuff.
Yeah,
around later.
there's a lot of physical constraints. I mean, the big thing would be like, do you wanna go for the burgers, that kind of stuff? And that's a whole other thing,
So
so.
it gets a little complicated.
It's
That's a whole
complicated.
fire, clear different fire suppression issues.
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff.
But in the meantime, our goal is over the next month or two is to get a budget in front of you guys, so you can say, you know, here's the budget, here's what it's gonna look like, here's the food items we can offer with this equipment package. What does it look like?
Go on.
All right, that was the golf course, so, the next three are a little bit earlier in the process, let's just say, we don't have, the ideas flushed out like we do with trails and golf course, for example, but we know that there is a need to do a master plan, in Hackberry, so that is something that is coming up, close, that's going to be available to us, the whole park will be available to us, probably at the end of this year is what we've been told.
I haven't heard differently, no.
Yeah, so, as Adam says, all these projects that take at least 3 years. First is the idea, and then the design, and then the construction, so I don't know that we can even do, this is probably going to be a pretty big project, so I think 3 years is pretty aggressive too. But the goal for this year is to just start to get the vision and start to get some feedback from stakeholders, neighborhood and so forth, but also, the youth sports organizations, the football, baseball, softball, so forth.
I wasn't gonna say anything. Cross.
Look at us, yeah. Just to see what their needs are, and I think that it's also a broader conversation, what we do with Hackberry, we also wanna think about our other sports parks.
Piece together.
Yeah, we have a portfolio of sports parks, you know, with Peterwood and so forth, but we want to take a holistic look.
Well, I know that when I talked to police baseball, they felt like having like baseball and multi-use was kind of nice, because they don't tend to like be on top of each other. And
Yeah.
Obviously, you want the balls going towards, not towards the field, but so like, nothing but good feedback
Good.
from both.
Would you consider the Casco rink in there too, as far as a sports park, or not necessarily?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Hockey.
Do we have an update on Casco?
We have
some.
On
Casco.
Casco?
sounds like it's going well.
Yep,
We
no,
have
boards are up. Well, I mean, Josh has been working with the association on, grooming and all that sort of stuff, and
He's in going twice a week, whatever.
Twice a week.
How's the action going out there? Does anybody know how to?
Yeah, there's a lot of skate marks down there.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Been down there twice now, to Zamboni and Kingston skate.
That might be something that we promote a little bit more to, a signage or something, you know, just to get something out there. So-
Yes,
So all the kids in the area are aware that, hey,
I don't
You
know
gotta
if
play
everybody
some
knows it's there.
yeah,
So we're gonna, get together with John Schwingler, who's from the association, after the season's over, and then we'll try to figure out a plan forward, because this was a little bit of a trial.
correct.
I think just so you know when it's there, and then bring all the kids, that,
Yeah.
that could spread a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big program.
is the hockey association doing their part?
Yeah, they've been shoveling out the inside of the rink,
Yeah.
shoveling it on the sides, we've been plowing everything else. They've been good work.
And they got the boards, right, they got the boards, and get the boards.
That's cool.
The city's investment for this year was, the lighting, and then, doing some improvements to get the water to stay. Not drain away, because we had trouble with it for a couple of years, and then the, youth hockey, Orono youth hockey then, brought in boards. And like Brian said, this was a trial, there's, you know, some aspirations. If this all works out well, maybe there's a small warming house in the future or something along those lines.
Yeah.
All right, Crystal Bay Park is another one that we're all excited about. This is, you know, we all see that Crystal Bay Park is to some aspect the kind of storefront for a lot of people for Orono as they go by the trail. Thousands of people pass that trail and know nothing about Orono every year. So that is something that I think has a lot of potential. We've talked about a couple ideas. Phase one is ongoing right now, which is implementing some playground equipment upgrades, which we have a vendor for, and it's on the schedule. We got some on the schedule.
It's on the agenda tonight for council.
Okay, cool. And then there's a broader question about what to do in the future. Unfortunately, with the staging of these things, I think that Hackberry is going to be a priority over Crystal Bay Park, but Jersey, who is one of our new commissioners, is very, very adept at planning these types of these parks, and she's excited to start to share some ideas with you guys on Crystal Bay Park, even if it is further in the future. So, pickleball. So, pickleball. Everyone loves pickleball, right?
I don't even know what pickleball is.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, you guys keep saying pickleball, and I just hear tennis rackets.
It's kind of
But not
tennis
tennis.
based, isn't it?
It's what?
Tennis based, kind of.
Yeah, it's racket sports,
Okay.
kind of with the wiffle ball type of thing. It's a smaller,
Oh, really?
it's a smaller court, like you can split a tennis court into two, and have two different courts,
What's the
shorter
difference?
nets and so forth. It's like tennis, but very accessible and also very social.
Is it play surface, kind of, you know, like a tennis court, or like
Hardcore. Yes, hardcore, yeah. So there's been a lot of people come to our meetings and educate us all on pickleball, including the name, which I can't remember what the answer was, where that came from, but
if it's a lower net too, we can jump over with it.
I don't know, it's kind of old,
so there's a large group of players that are at the WAC of Masaka, yep, indoors, and they are looking for more outdoor facilities. There's one that was just built in Delano, which was nice, and then the Taj Mahal apparently is in Minnetonka, the Lone Oak, whatever, that part. And they have lights and everything like that.
For the bike track,
Yes, it's the same one, it's the same park. So, the idea this year is just to start to explore where in Orono we could put something like this. So,
And I don't know enough about pickleball. Could that, courts, need multi-purpose, like, could you do different things on it, or does it always have to be pickleball? Because I don't know.
well,
I've never seen.
you can do both,
What do you mean?
but you can do multiple things.
Okay.
But that's not what the ask is.
Well, sometimes you don't. do it.
I know. So that's what we're.
We can always ask, but I think we're showing people that you can ask, you're not
Right.
always going to be.
well, maybe you can fly over.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the nice, that
Yeah,
is,
so you
could
have
be good.
overtime, you said summertime.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
I don't know if
figure out,
there's
like,
a pool summertime.
Then you wouldn't have that water leakage issue that you just talked about.
We've done just a little exploring on the issue, just once it got brought to us as a need or desire in the community, what are some other communities doing? And there is out there, well, there's grant money out there available, but some other communities are doing just that. They're either, they're putting in pickleball courts, which can be used for other things like basketball and that, but you'd have to reset them for that. But, the pavement is the pavement. But a lot of communities here in Minnesota are also then using them in the wintertime as the bottom of a skating surface.
Okay, that's kind of neat.
So there may be some opportunities for year-round use and.
association taking down the boards then?
Yeah.
In the summer?
So that was it. We've got some that are in process, late stages, some that are early exploratory stages, and, but again, we've got a lot to do. We've got some biggies on here that, but I think we have people to do it, so.
Yeah, I think it's a great list. The back page just shows kind of everybody's commissioners for the different areas and the access points, the trails, so just from our standpoint, who's working on them. Everybody gets assigned to pick ones that are, they're familiar with the poster or something like that, just so they can be there, but that's a great list. Welcome to the two days, moving all these things forward, and especially the boards, it's right on the front burner.
Oh, thank you, that's a lot of detail and consideration that one, so thanks a lot.
All right, well, we will let you guys go, and we're gonna get, Lisa, we're gonna talk about a couple of things. I know from our HR committee, which is, we have one of our HR committee here, we have two items that the chief should talk about. One is just an HR about recruitment, and then he wants us to, ask him to come to give us an update about what's going on at the ICE arena, we've got some more ratings recently.
Yeah,
And what they're doing, what we're doing, just so everybody knows.
I'm gonna step up.
Okay.
Thank you. So there's one something I should know, does that cause some concerns, especially with the burglaries and the break-ins that we had also last week, which got some media attention. So just working on those aspects, we're seeing a lot more at the ice arena and our private businesses. Harvest Moon had one late last fall with just smashing grabs. So trying to work with the association down there, working on cameras. The problem with cameras is you can have the best cameras, but what we're seeing now is the individuals that have items taken out of their vehicles and credit cards used, is that we get great footage, but identifying because of the mass, the hoodies. We do have random controls going through. Again, there's so much activity going on in the parking lots. It's hard to see that, and there's one example where on one of the smash and grabs, there was a student doing homework inside the vehicle that actually saw it, but then didn't know that, didn't know what to do. So I think that's, we're trying to encourage people really, and Sun Sailor had a great article, if you see something, say something, don't be afraid to call those in. I think we're seeing individuals not wanting to take action in some of these, and what we're seeing is when we're going back, and we call after the fact, we're going back, looking at, we're missing by seconds. I mean, it's coming down to mere seconds. When we look at our squad GPS of where they were when the calls came up to those locations, you track the routes that the individuals are using. We're missing at some of these intersections by seconds. So timing this is really important. So trying to get the message out to call in advance or when you see something. And even at the ice arena, if they see something going, someone will give us a call. They will check things out. If it's a legitimate reason, you know what, hey, have a nice night, we'll be on our way just because of the
We're gonna go protective of that one. I know that they just got the cameras donated, so they're putting cameras up on the ice rink. So I'm not sure about the status of them, but I know they're putting them up over this last weekend. And one of the concerns that was on email that they were doing is that they had heard that they thought that people will do the smash grabs are on.
We don't know, because we haven't identified anything. However, in one of the incidents where there was a smash grab, firearms taken, in that case from the vehicle. From the vehicle, and that vehicle was recovered in St. Paul a few days later. Firearms in that vehicle was a stolen car. So we just don't know. We're in several of these cases where we're finding stolen cars in pursuits that we have up here, and they're coming in and finding associated with that. At points they have been, we're recovering firearms in those vehicles. So we're putting a message out there, be careful. Don't confront them yourselves. If you see this, call, unless it's a situation where you don't know what's going on. But make sure you call, and because, like I said, timing is important, and cameras, it doesn't get cheap cameras if it can't identify them, but there again, it's also, we're working, and we have some other options that we're working on, with, once they get quick cameras, looking at some other options to upgrade those and some other features that they may have. So
And if you're hearing rumors, and this is part of it, is the emails, the rumor that some of these support members have heard, guys for right away, I don't have the answer. And I'm gonna put Corey right in front of it, at least to start the rumors, so we're not getting bad information.
like that email, I called him that morning, and we had a great conversation, just talking to him, dispelling some of the rumors and some of the information that's out there that I just couldn't confirm it because I didn't know, but also just clarifying some issues and some concerns about what can be done. So it was a great article, like I said, in the Sun Sailor, you can see something, say something, I think that's gonna be our majority, get to know your neighbors a lot, and when you see something going on, so you know if something in your neighborhood is, not the norm. So, but we're also seeing, a lot of FedEx, deliveries happening in private vehicles, not FedEx, Amazon deliveries, and they're starting to come out earlier, late in the evening, so we're getting more calls on those, but there again, I know that as a driver, at one time it was, I think, 1:30 in the morning, they're making deliveries, and they're starting at 5, we've seen them ahead, calls that are like, as they're like.
Yeah, well, they're doing that in Amazon overnight.
Yeah, I've got some like 2:30.
Yeah, so we're seeing that even at 5:30, but people are calling saying, I just saw a car in my driveway, my ring doorbell went off, I picked up a vehicle, and they didn't catch the person making the delivery, because they was outside the kennel, but they saw the vehicle pull in. So that's what we get calls for that, we, stop the vehicle because of the description, we find out that it's the Amazon delivery. Yeah, so we are doing that, but it's one of those that when we try to, change our efforts, that element that changes there, so it's always a cat and mouse trying to figure out what's happening next and what's coming next, so. Then a little bit with recruitment, so that was the idea, because right now we're sort of in a position, where recruitment is getting tougher and tougher, and we're seeing that right now we are currently staffed, we have one currently on, field training, but in the next, 6 to 8 weeks, we'll have, 2 officers, retiring, and also one that's choosing a new career, and that's where we're looking at, trying to rebrand and maybe market higher. What can we do to drive us in? What we're also seeing is we had 2 individuals that we were backgrounding, just in the last couple weeks. We thought we were on track to hire and have those retirements and have somebody in a position to be hired. However, both took different positions with agencies around us for hire. So we're dealing with
A couple of months ago, we lost a couple, 3 guys.
So we lost 1 2 guy and 1 woman. So we're seeing that as the eligibility list for potential candidates coming out of academies and those coming out of the schools, we're seeing that a lot of them are already spoken for, or we're trying to recruit, we're going out, trying to get, or the last few hires have been out from counties out to our west that we attract. However, they're also, if they're looking, they're competing with their neighboring agencies. Last week when I checked the post hiring, that's our licensing, they have a job for over 68 agencies hiring over 200 positions that are hiring right now. In the state of Minnesota, that's very, not normal. Usually there's, 20 to 30 agencies. What you're seeing now is those that are early retirements, those that are choosing new careers, but you're just not seeing with the normal retirements and normal people that are moving here, you're not seeing the field being launched. You're seeing at the academy, some of them are at 50% of what they're normally at. We have one of our researchers that is going through an academy. Right now, there's 18 people in his class, and it's a 2-year program, and it started over 40. Now they're down to 18 after 2 years. Of those, just talking to him, a lot of them, there's a few that's, on higher wages because they're in the program, they probably won't hire. But all is, people that are there also have jobs already waiting for them from other agencies because they're starting that recruitment process. So, which is nice because we have one of those that he's a reserve guard, we're hopefully be having that fellow grasp to keep him. So that when he's done in June, we can use that as a recruiting tool to attract that. But we're just seeing it's getting tougher, especially with neighboring agencies, just those on, one LinkedIn, in Prairie, recognizing the last, in the course of 4 years, we lost 3 officers. So, and that's where, in some of this hiring process is that we're losing to neighboring agencies as well.
I know what the learning that we still do it for the region, I want you to come and at least talk about it, and I think, and I'm sure Vic and Ingram and so forth, but I think as the HR committee, I think that's what I would point you to, is to strategize and talk about did it all by ourselves, and we had a great pool of candidates, but remember, you did that, you did a great job, and most of you didn't do it. So I think we had a little bit of experience on thinking out of the box a little bit to first grade. And so I would suggest to sit down and use
Is there anything else that, I mean, to the public safety or that, right? Is there anything that you have questions or concerns about that?
No. All right. Sounds good. Thanks. Anything else or? Okay.
Oh, I think your Facebook posts are good.
Yeah, well, we got, Channel 5, Channel 9, we got some good coverage, on those, but it just seems that we're getting a lot of activity.
You know what you need to do.
What's that?
So your product does it. Yes! Josh knows.
You know, we did the bullet punch.
I know, and I was out of the state and I didn't make it, so.
I don't get it. I don't
You
get
could
it,
dance.
so-
It would definitely make for entertainment.
See how that?
No, it's, after every Monday night training.
To your friend Riley today. I'd like to ask Riley, I assume.
Did you have anything in the presentation?
I did put my folder in there. Mel or Laura has a packet, but I don't see it.
Yes. Yeah, no, he's good.
I'm not exactly sure.
I'm good, how are you?
You can't just go
Completely convincing.
Good evening, Ron. How are you? Yeah.
I know, that's what I was just wondering.
It's not there.
Okay, getting ready for the city council meeting. Right there. Battery check. Actually, I got me a battery. Thank you to 472 Lift. Plug it in right now. Yes. 67% battery and charging. Bring it just to the Alright, take a look at the agenda quick.
Okay, 6 o'clock. Welcome to the Valentine's February 14th, 2022 Orono City Council meeting. Know that all council members are present except Council Member Pinto tonight, who will be here, I think he's running about 15 minutes late. Before we get to our regular agenda, we do have our HRA, our annual HRA meeting that we'll have first. And for that I will open up the HRA meeting right now, and everybody is in attendance except Council Member Pinto. And I will look to approve the agenda and the approval of the minutes at the same time. Do I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And city administrators report? Ron?
Well, the annually, we're required to have a meeting of the HRA. The HRA had no activity in the last year, so tonight's meeting is simply to elect the officers.
They were the same, the chairs, me, Denny Walsh, the vice chair is Aaron Pintup, and the secretary is Ron Olson. Do you have any reports of committees? I don't believe we have any reports because we had no business. Motion to approve the officers of the HRA was presented.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Note that passes 4-0. Any unfinished business? I believe we have none. I believe there's no new business. So motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, HRA is adjourned. Okay, now we will return to our regular agenda council meeting. Again, all members of the council are here except Councilmember Pintup, who will be here a little later. We always start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so I invite you to stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, the first thing we're going to do is with the approval of the agenda. We're in one vote. We will approve everything that we're going to have on the agenda. And if there's something that somebody does not want on the consent agenda tonight, you can raise your hand, we'll take it off, and I will go over each item so everybody knows what's on the consent agenda before we vote on it. So with that said, somebody like to take a consent on what should be in the consent agenda tonight?
I'll take care of it this evening. I move to accept the consent agenda as it is, items 1 through 11, adding item number 12 to the consent agenda.
Any other thoughts? All right, so what we have in the consent agenda tonight is number 1, City Council meeting minutes of January 24th. Number 2, Council work session minutes of January 24th. Number 3, claims and bills. Number 4, approval of rental license. Number 5, authorization to pay for 2020 street maintenance project 20-1, pay request number 5, final. Number 6, approve rehabilitation of lift station 3 at 3400 East Lake Street and lift station 11 at 1813 Fagerness Point Road. Number 7, approval to hire a part-time clubhouse manager and events coordinator. Number 8, appointment of 2022 seasonal employees. Number 9, approval of Crystal Bay Park playground updates. Number 10, approval to hire Public Works Administrative Assistant. Number 11 is LA 21-71, Paul Taunton, 3600 Ivy Place, conditional use permit, resolution number 7249. And number 12 is LA 21-74, City of Orono text amendment related to park dedication and summary ordinance of the same, ordinance number 268, third series, and summary ordinance number 269, third series. Is there any of those items anybody would like to have to take taken off of the consent agenda tonight? And seeing no objections, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Seals. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, that passes 4-0. Okay, next we have public comments, or if there's something on the agenda that you'd like to come up and talk about that's not on the agenda, come up and state your name and address, and you have up to 5 minutes to speak.
Ryan Roth, 1200 Wildhurst Trail in Orono. There's much concern, confusion, and misinformation in our Orono community about Summit Park. And I'd like to give a few comments from my perspective as both an Orono resident and as, excuse me, park commissioner. My goal here is to help clear up the miscommunication and set everyone's nerves at ease over the future of that park. Perhaps here in my comments, you might want to add your own about the situation and suggest a path forward. First, comments about the process. In 2019, the Orono, or the Long Lake Rowing Club, brought forth the seed of an idea to locate some of their operations at Summit Park. Based on guidance from the Parks Commission and city staff, the rowing club held at least 2 or 3 public open houses. They got input from the community. In early 2020, the club presented to the Park Commission a first pass at what a facility in Summit Park might look like. The objective was to start a conversation about a public-private partnership with the city. At that meeting, the rowing club received more feedback from the public and Park Commission about their ideas. There were many aspects of the plan that the park commissioners had concerns about, and the commission did not pass a recommendation to support the plan. Our viewpoint was if anything was going to work out, there would first need to be more iterations of the design based on input from the community, and stakeholders. It was still much too early in the design process. Between March 2020 and January 22, there was no activity, nothing, no new proposals. Yet, the community was worked up and voiced strong opposition at a recent planning meeting, the recent parks meeting, and now probably tonight at the city council, as if there is a vetted proposal in front of us pending a final vote. Please, tonight, set nerves at ease that the city is nowhere near making a final decision on the Long Lake Rowing Club at Summit. Confirm that the rowing club doesn't even have a current proposal on the table, and please explain that any future proposal would require several iterations of input from the community and stakeholders like the council and commissioners. In the absence of any activity between March 2020 and January 22, fear has written a crazy narrative. The comments I hear and read on this matter, while appreciated, are really not relevant. For example, I read several people requesting the park is not given to a public entity. Speaking on behalf of the Parks Commission, we do not support that. And I know that you don't support that. And I know that the Long Lake Rowing Club isn't even asking that. No one has ever considered that. So where does this fear originate from? Unfortunately, there are some people in our community who are spreading false information. Our residents deserve to hear the truth in the midst of this confusion the misinformation has caused. I support Victoria's comment at the last council meeting that we need to take back the narrative. Please do what's legally and technically possible to stop misinformation and spread accurate facts about the plans at Summit. The Park Commission is excited to see Orono residents and the passion and interest they have in providing feedback. Sorry. On the facts. Come on, computer.
You don't have to memorize, come on, Brian.
All right.
We have another minute.
Okay. So we're excited to hear the feedback from the community, but please, we need feedback on the facts. Feedback on misinformation really doesn't help us. The goal of the Park Commission is to help opportunities, or to provide opportunities for our residents to enjoy our natural parks. There is no one who wants to take this away any parks, impede nature, or disrupt anyone from their current activities at Summit, period. The Commission will not support any plans that do anything but enhance everyone's use of the park. Please confirm tonight, you are also aligned with this. I know you are, but it would help to set the record straight. Lastly, I want to say that I appreciate what you guys do. What the commissioners do, what the city staff does. It is essential that to our role that the city, with the city, that we give our residents and local organizations the opportunity to have ideas and proposals heard. I'm sure you have heard some crazy ideas over the years. I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome that you have at least considered those ideas and provided the appropriate feedback. As such, we owe the Long Lake Rowing Club the opportunity to present ideas, hear feedback, incorporate feedback, and receive a final vote on their proposal, no matter where you stand on the issue. Please do not be scared away from a few loud voices. I trust in your leadership and know that Orono will set the right path forward for the summit. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brian.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Winston, 765 Spring Hill Road. And this kind of goes along with what Brian just said. Due to the large citizen interest in the Long Lake Rowing Club's proposal for Summit Beach Park, we ask that the Orono City Council conduct its proceedings on this topic with the utmost public accountability and transparency. At the January 24th City Council meeting, a special committee was formed to further pursue a tabled application. In response to this new special planning committee, specific actions that would be in the best interest of the Orono citizens are as follows. Citizens should be allowed to sit in and listen to the special committee's proceedings. The date of the committee's meetings be properly noticed so citizens can attend. Minutes and attendance of the meetings be taken so that this special council committee can be recorded for the citizens. We have outlined our request in this signed letter and asked for an official response before any meetings are held. Again, due to the large public interest in this tabled application, we would like our city to handle this in a very transparent and professional manner. So I have some signatures here, but I will pass this over here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Barbara Schmidt and I live at 50 Landmark Drive. Citizens of Orono, after researching passive versus active parks, here's what I found. Passive parks, meaning those with natural resources, including trees, water, and open green spaces, add real value to residential properties. Dozens of studies show that anywhere from single-digit to double-digit increases in actual property values happen near passive parks. Generally, the more trees in a park, the more value is added to the residential property. That means hundreds, perhaps thousands, of Orono residents have real increased property value because of the passive parks in their neighborhood. This is according to the National Park and Recreation Association, the University of Washington, and the University of Wisconsin, among others. What takes away real property value is noise, traffic, and loss of privacy. So this means that the park plans the City of Orono is proposing are going to reduce property values in our neighborhoods. Whether you live right next to a park or within a mile radius, traffic, noise, and lack of privacy will most likely affect your property value. Why would Orono City Council be willing to financially hurt their tax base? This question has bothered me. It should bother you too. Apparently taking public land and giving it to private interest has more to do with the City Council's gain, not ours. Something else caught my attention. Council member Victoria Seals called Orono residents entitled and then corrected herself to say lucky instead. If residents are entitled, Ms. Seals, then why do we need more niche activities in our highly valued passive parks? Rowing and mountain biking are two of the least diverse or accessible to the average citizen. According to current demographics and approximate team membership, less than half of 1% of Orono residents row. Less than half of 1% of Orono residents team mountain bike. So why are you, City of Orono, taking away our collective property values by millions of dollars for the benefit of just a few individuals, some of whom are not even Orono residents? The numbers just don't add up. You're asking that the City of Orono, the Parks Commission, including the Parks Committee for Summit Beach, to stop developing our natural parks, devaluing our public properties. For more information, see our website, Stand Up for Property Rights, bigwoodsandwetlands.org. Thank you.
Anybody else? Talk louder.
It's one of these awkward things. Elizabeth Weir, 765 Bridgewater Drive, and my concern is Summit Park. And my concern is the will with which it was donated to the city, onto the keeper of Orono. And I have a letter, and I believe you have it too, from Louis B. Oberhauser, Mr. Dayton's attorney, and I'll just read the last paragraph, I'm going to be very brief. The City of Orono accepted the deed to this property as park property per the recommendations of the Park Commission. Mr. Dayton's desire and purpose of this contribution was to keep this property from being developed with structures that would destroy its natural beauty and have it used in the future as an open space beach for his neighbours. And we know from hearing from his brothers and the family that his will was to keep this natural and undeveloped. I am not clear what the status of the application from the LLRC is, but it seems to be tabled, it has not gone away. And what is legal is one thing, because I believe the deeds have no restrictions on them. What is proper and moral is another, and I ask both the LLRC and the council take this in consideration when considering this going forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
I'm Fred Winston, live at 765 Spring Hill Road. Bruce Dayton was our closest neighbor for 45 years before his death and a close friend. I am concerned about the City Council's numerous mentions on January 24th council meeting that Orono parks need active events or facilities in order to appease idle teens and make parks functional. Orono has beautiful parks that are passive and provide walking, hiking opportunities in nature. The last Orono citizen survey, the year was 2008. The results, a supermajority of 89% responded that they wanted passive parks, open space, and natural areas to be a top priority versus 9% wanting to develop active park facilities such as as ball fields, excuse me. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your attention. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Deborah Trump, 1125 North Stubbs Bay Road. I have a question. The bike trails you're planning on putting in, is there a list of parks you plan on using? And is Betterwood one of them?
Well, this isn't really a question and answer session.
How do I find out this?
If you want to email our city administrator, we'd be glad to email that to you. We just had a work session where we talked about all of that.
Is that going to be eventually where the neighbors in the park are we going to be invited to these little meetings that you're having?
That was a public meeting. There was a bunch of your friends who were here at that meeting too.
We've been out of town.
Okay.
Okay, and one more thing, who do I find out if there's going to be?
That meeting was just today.
Okay, understood. Is there going to be lighting on these bike parks and trails at night? Is this part of the plan?
That'd be a good question for Adam. And if you have questions, you can send them in to Adam. He'll get all your questions answered. That's not a
A
problem.
lot of questions for you, Adam.
Send them my way.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Jane Iger, 1386 West Point Road, Orono, been there over 25 years. I wasn't really going to say anything until our esteemed park commissioner came up and felt he was a little bit disingenuous with his comments, that there was no need to be fearful or whatever. It's obvious to me that there was a track and something was going to happen in a park that was going to give a large area of it, building-wise, to a private entity, and Orono would lose control over it. Not only that, Ms. Seals there did admit that for some reason this did not follow the process we had before, and that it went out of bounds and got off the tracks that way, and we need to get back on the process. So there obviously were issues, and there were real reasons for the people to be concerned. What's really concerning to me about his comments is the last part, and what I heard Ms. Seal say before and others, is that it's time to take back the narrative. When you take back the narrative, to me, that means silence your opposition, okay? And that's what I'm hearing here, is we have to control what's being said, instead of you as a council or others, commission saying, well, you know, reacting to what the community wants is also important. That's all I have to say.
Is there anybody else? Richie?
Is everybody done talking about the park? You got one at the rock.
So this is, my name is Richie Anderson, I live at 3205 Pickleball Road. And just give you a little background on what I'm gonna propose tonight. So I work, as you know, in LMCD closely with the Water Patrol, and the Water Patrol has told me they work closely with the OPD, as close as anybody on the lake. And so their discussion was, I was telling Corey that I seen his picture with the Water Patrol on July 4th, and we got into discussion. He said, yeah, it'd really be cool if we had their Coast Guard approved jackets, so when we go on, Water Patrol goes, we need you, they don't have to scrounge for a life jacket, because you can't get on the boat without a life jacket. So one thing led to another. Corey said he was trying to get life jackets from some deal out there where they give money to cop shops or something like that. So I hit him up the other day. I said, hey, did you ever get that thing done? He said, no. I said, you still want to go that way to have a life jacket in every cop car? He said, yeah, that'd be cool. I said, how many you need? Well, we got 14 cars. So I reached out to Shane Magnuson, who's the captain of the Water Patrol, and this is what they wear. And so I'm donating, if you'll accept the donation to the cop shop, 14 of these, so everyone will have one in the car.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Richie.
But I think you have to accept the donation.
I think I'll make a motion to accept the donation.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
And DJ is gonna give them to the board.
Anybody else have any donations for us tonight? Is there anybody else who would like to come up and talk? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comments. And I know before we go to the finance report, Victoria,
Yeah.
you want to respond a little bit?
Yeah, no, so, because obviously there's a handful of you here that want to talk about Summit, and I directed a little bit of the attention towards myself, so I'll take it upon myself to update all of you. So yes, I did say let's bring back the conversation to the city. Yes, I did say let's take back the narrative. That was not to silence the community. That was actually at the behest of the request of lots of residents who said, I'm not hearing anything out of the council. I want to hear what you have to say. And it had been a quiet, probably 2 years during the pandemic where nothing had happened, and then it popped up in planning. And I envision from your seats, that's probably kind of scary, and you're probably thinking what's been happening behind closed doors, right? So if you want to interpret that as silencing people, by all means, but really that was the request that I was hearing from multiple residents, is they wanted to hear from us. What do you think? And we hadn't talked about it. Contrary to some people's belief, it was not to, I don't remember the exact phrase, but to take away power from parks. I wanted to bring them back into the conversation because this thing, for whatever reason, pandemic, it's been a little weird. I think we can all admit it. And I'm not going to say it perfectly. I admittedly am a human being like all of you out there. I do not choose my words perfectly every time because I don't have a script. It didn't go the way we wanted to go. The last time it came to council, I think it was the mayor that said, we can see something here, but we need the building really stripped back. We need to see a big public benefit. And then it just came back to planning commission the same way. Nothing had changed. So very much like all of you in the audience, we were surprised also because we had given feedback that before we even look at this, there's some things that need to happen. There needs to be a public benefit. I don't know what that is, but you need to figure it out. Between that last meeting and this meeting, I did talk to parks and I did talk to planning. And I wanted to update all of you. So first, there is no plan for the LLRC plan to come back. I think they know, and I think we know, that what they presented and kind of the trail we got there, there's probably not a good route to get what they want and what they proposed. What we chatted about and determined is going back to what was talked about a few years ago. And it actually was the Parks Commission that actually used the phrase master plan. Now, if you go to a Parks Commission, you'll hear them say master plan. And what that means is the park sits down, they really talk about the park. What is it, right? So, for example, Brian talked about Hackberry Park. That's gonna take a lot of time. You guys will chuckle, maybe not. Government doesn't move that fast. That's probably a 2 or 3 year project, where they're gonna have to determine what can you do, what makes sense, what do people want. So essentially, I'm punting this back to the Parks Commission to do what originally we had planned to do, which is the master plan. And within those elements, I'm asking that there be several public open houses. That would be the forum to share feedback on ideas, right? You know, we have concepts out there that are contemplating a playground that's more natural. What do you think about that? That's where that will come in place. And then they'll talk about, you know, are there partnerships? Or should we look at, I mean, Adam will talk about an ice rink on the lake. Do we want to look at those things? Adam loves ice rinks. I don't know what the outcome's gonna be, is my point, because it's gonna go through, as you would say, a process where it goes to parks, they put together some ideas, it'll be in the public forum, they'll actually have public open houses where you can provide feedback. I know Brian said that, you know, LLRC did that early on, but I think we can all admit, even if they did it early on, that was years ago, right? So things have changed drastically over the past years. So that will be the plan. Now, I think you had mentioned in the orangish shirt, wanting to be notified. The best way to be notified is to get on Orono's public listserv. That will tell you about all meetings and all updates. So this will hit the Parks Commission, and that's where that will be notified. And so you guys will be able to see that. My caveat to you is it's probably not gonna be tomorrow. It's gonna take some time. As Brian mentioned, they're all volunteers and they have things they do during the day, so it takes time to get things through. So hopefully that what I'm sharing with you takes into some of the things that you guys have been wanting to hear, is that there's gonna be a process. You will be notified of it. There's the ability for you all to share your opinions through this, and those public open houses will be coordinated through the city too. So know that you'll hear about it through there. You know, I don't think and I think Brian, you tried to hit upon it, is that, you know, the city's job is to listen to people when they come, and I appreciate everyone that's come, and I've met with several of you. And even the LLRC, right? We need to listen to them and their idea. It doesn't mean we're saying yes, and it doesn't mean any of you have to like it, but listening to everybody and hearing their opinions is important. So that will be the intent, is that, to your point, will there be notes taken? Yes, because it'll be at Parks. It'll be part of one of their bigger meetings. Will there be a plan? Yes. We'll also try to get together and share a little bit of a general timeline, so you guys can have an idea of what's coming when. So I hope that, I don't know, I kind of came up with this on my own and shared it with you guys very perfectly, but I don't think anyone's intent was to do things, you know, that didn't meet the public's needs. I think everyone's human. I think you guys got to give each other some grace, right? You know, I try to give people the same grace when they shoot me a very not friendly email. I know that people are, you know, if you're fired up, that's great. That means you care about the neighborhoods you live in. And I think it's great to see that many people care about parks, to be honest, because Brian, you've had meetings when there's been 2 people in the audience, and it's Denny and I. So I'm glad to hear that people are interested.
And 6 years ago, we had no Parks Commission. Our parks were all overgrown, so we've done a lot of stuff with our parks. And we've listened to a lot of different issues that have come up where we've vacated roads, we've vacated easements, all the odd stuff where you have a 150-year-old city that's been plotted before the lakes were even dammed up. So there's a lot of weird stuff out there. But we do listen to what everybody brings up. Nobody has a bad idea. They might just have an idea that isn't going to work. But I think we need to act respectfully, and I think I go back to Matt's comments at a couple of council meetings when he was just disappointed at the veracity of things that were being set up here. So hopefully we can keep this on an even keel moving forward, and that we follow Victoria's advice. For all the stuff that gets noticed is on the listserv. And that's where you see it, or you pay attention to papers or look on the website or something, but the listserv is the easiest thing. And that, as long as the city's got your email, you can get on that. That's really easy.
So I get them all the time too, so just to remind me, just so I can make sure I show up. You guys have any other thoughts before we get to finance?
Yeah, on the park subject, there's a lot of talk about active and passive parks and so forth. About a year ago, I was in California, and I was there in 1979 as a kid. And I remember the parks in the area, and they were all active and green, and things were going well, and kids were playing. They looked wonderful. And going back lately, recently, there was nobody there. They were overgrown, weeded. They looked like cesspools. It was horrible. No activity, no enjoyment. I am a proponent for, I guess, more active parks. I think we're gonna have some parks in our group that are less active and more on the passive stuff. But, you know, it's an engagement process with the council and the public to come up with wonderful ideas to help improve our city. You've got a lot of people that are dedicating a lot of their private time for no money to help out the city. The proposal was tabled, it wasn't even here. And, you know, it's, the council's being attacked over something that wasn't even up here. So I guess I would say, you know, take a step back and breathe. I have all the respect in the world for what the Dayton's did in donating the land, but once things are donated, they're the city's. And, you know, the one thing this council recognizes is we work for our citizens. So we want to reflect what ultimately you want, but it's not just this group, it's all of them. And we want to try to do our best to accomplish that goal. But have a civil respect for each other, be kind to each other. There doesn't need to be attacks or a lot of falsehoods thrown around that these things are approved when they're not, because I'm like, I don't know, you know, that project was discussed so long ago, it's like, I need to re-go over it and remember. You know, we've been through so many different meetings since then. It's not like, oh, the Long Lake Growing Plan, oh yeah, that's right under my pillow. It's not. So, you know, this council will do their best to keep improving our parks, to make sure we have citizen engagement. And Victoria, you're very pointing out everything that's online. Our meetings are open. We want people to come. We want engagement. And we invite your comments. It's not a bad thing as long as it's done in a civil and respectful manner. Just, you know, be honest with the discussion. I guess that's what I would do. But thank you.
Well, and not to belabor this too much, I think you can rely on the city to keep in keeping with a donation with stipulations. If we take in land with stipulations to it, we're gonna adhere to the stipulations of the donation. The one thing I guess I wanted to drive home, that was real disappointing to watch unfold. I received an email from one of my neighbors who's a leader of a church, and it was a pretty scathing email accusing the city council of keeping this whole topic quiet, like there was some sort of special process that was happening for Summit Park. And that is just, that's taking back the narrative. That is not true. What people have to understand, and before being in this position, I was guilty of it too, not paying attention to what was happening at the city. The city makes a lot of decisions, but they're all done in a private format. And somebody brings an application, they go to the planning commission. Public, sorry. That's why I need help. But it happens very specifically, and we follow very specific rules. And so that happened with the summit. It hadn't even made it anywhere yet. It hadn't made it to us, so we can't be hiding something. So, but thanks everybody tonight. The public comments were done in a great way. You can have your opinion and share it, and that was appreciated the way it was handled tonight.
I'm sorry that I was a little tardy.
I'm gonna stay after council.
Okay, with that, we have our finance report with Ron.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a whole lot to report. There is a slide in the presentation folder. If you haven't pulled it up. And just a recap of what's going on in finance these days. The auditors will be here on Wednesday. The slide is sort of a sad slide because there's only 1 month here. That way it makes it look exciting.
Weren't the auditors just here?
They were just here, but,
You just like their presence so much.
you do. They'll be back on Wednesday and start the preliminary work. This is building permits. You can see we're a little lower than last year at this time. February of last year was only about 20,000, so it comes up and down.
Just to have anything good in those first few months is all positive.
Yeah, anything good in the January, February, and March is good. Have a pick up in April. I did, we got the Vikings colors there for Mr. Crosby, but I did throw in some blue, because the blue and gold sort of, give the Rams a little love.
Ouch.
Anyway, that's all I have tonight.
All right, city attorney report.
I have no update at this time, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Adam, city administrator engineer report and department review annual report. Whole bunch of stuff.
Whole bunch of stuff. Mayor, members of the council, a while back, I was, even before I started as the administrator, there had been, I gathered some intent from the council that we provide some better feedback on how the various departments, staff departments in the city were performing on an annual basis. So took that guidance to heart and started to try to put together what I'm calling the 2021 city annual report. It's very much a draft. So partly in your package, you got the draft of that. So looking for some feedback from you on items to include, not to include, things you'd like more information on, that sort of thing. So happy to receive that feedback either here or offline if you want to send me an email or what have you. Based the report on what some of our neighboring cities do, and then also internally on what our police department has been doing for years, every year. So that's what you have in your packet. What I intended to do this evening in the council meeting is just kind of go through a higher level summary of the year. So looking at 2021, first thing I wanted to say is, like anything else, what we do at the staff is embedded with the guidance, the overarching guidance that we receive from council in the form of our mission, vision, and city goals. As many of you recall, this was first put together in 2019. I don't think we've changed or edited this since, so this is still kind of the guiding, high-arching guidance that we follow on the staff. It's also available on the website if anybody wants to take a deeper dive. In today's agenda, I'll just give an overview and then go through each department, just as. For an overview for 2021, the key word is change. We had a lot of change at the city, particularly in the staff, so that's kind of the theme. Organizationally, some things that we did, we separated the parks and the public works departments into two separate departments. We then hired a new parks superintendent. We brought in a new public works superintendent position to manage each of those departments. And then we also added, organizationally, we added some additional manpower and resources to the parks department. And then, as you're all aware, we went away from in-house building department, contracted it out, and then came back full circle almost in a 12-month period. So brought in a building official and building inspector here at the end of the year. Operationally, we changed in that we took over. The big item for us was the taking over responsibility for Spring Park's Public Works and that contract for service that we now have with them that our Public Works Department is performing. And then finally, just in personnel, again, in addition to the organizational changes, this year we did bring in 12 new staff members. We also, as usual, that's not too different, we brought 20 seasonal staff on board last summer. And then we did have, to note, two retirements of some long-term personnel, one at 26 years, I think, and the other at 32 years of service to the city, left us for retirement. On the chart, I just kind of highlighted in the green arrows there, just all the different positions that have somebody either new to the city or new to the position. So again, just a lot of turmoil in the city staff. The administrative department is led by our city clerk, Anna Carlson. To help her, she has an administrative assistant at the front desk and our management assistant, and then has off and on throughout the year has up to 2 scanning clerks that are doing our digitization of our historical files. So, her department just really started keeping metrics this year, and the categories you see there. There's a little bit more granularity in the report itself and on the slide, but just looking at the major areas that the department's responsible for and what they've been able to achieve. In particular, over the last year, we've put efforts into the communications realm, getting more things out on social media, more things on the website, and then also using our utility billing bills as another venue for getting information out to the public. The other things that the department kind of took on this year was the implementation of our point of sale inspection program and tracking that in partnership with the Public Works Department actually does the inspections. We've tried a couple different things for customer service, new phone tree and procedures and that sort of thing. And then, as many of you are aware, it started obviously a year prior, but continuing to implement our COVID protocols with the front desk and how we do the person-to-person interaction with the public. And most recently, just in the last couple of months, we stood up a new organics program in the city, and Hannah has been leading that effort. Our finance department, led by Ron, across the way from me here, responsible for both our finance department does all the budgeting, accounting, all that normal stuff you would expect. He also oversees our IT department, which is really Department 1, but that function as well. Some key highlights there. Well, one is a tremendous amount of turnover in this department. We have a new accountant, we have a new resource management tech, so 50% turnover in the department and personnel, as well as we did have some long-term vacancies in some of those seats with various with COVID and things like that. So a lot of turmoil in that department, but with all of that, we still had a clean audit, which is what we expect. We maintained our AAA rating, and we did get through the $16 million bonding for the Public Works facility. And then, as you're all very intimately familiar with, as we go through the budgeting process which Ron leads, we were able to once again keep that levy rate flat. And then on the IT side of the house, probably not really out in view, but the police department instituted new body cameras this year, and I don't think anybody really appreciates the amount of data storage and procedures and processes that entails, and so our IT department trying to work through all those and coordinate that with our provider, Logis, and the police department, all that kind of good stuff. So pretty big project for that. Community development, also again, very familiar to you all, because they are the ones that actually spend a lot of time in front of you in our city council meetings, bringing various things that our residents want to get accomplished before you. That department also, a heavy amount of turnover and some long-term absences due to medical situations. And of course, the biggest thing for that department this year was that turnover, as I mentioned before, in the building department, and being able to take it from in-house to out-house and from out-house back into in-house was a tremendous amount of administrative effort required. And then the other key achievement that I had on there is just integration of all the personnel into that department. At the same time, as you can see there by the metrics, and you got the reports from the finance department on the utility billing revenues, is a good indicator of the workload that continues to come through that department. And even with those challenges in personnel, we were able to provide those services as our residents expect throughout the past year. Police department, they have the fanciest of the reports in your report, so lots of pictures and color graphs in there. But just as an overview, as you all know, the largest department we have as far as staffing in the city, led by Chief Barnett, who was giving a briefing during the work session. The key thing for other people to understand is that our police department serves not only our community, but it serves the communities of Mound, Spring Park, and Woonsocket Beach, and has for quite some time. Big achievements for them this year was, again, that body worn camera implementation. They do a fantastic job with that outreach. Our police department does, National Night Out. They ran some firearm safety classes, bringing young folks in for some training there. And then fully participating in the broader community through our mobile field force. We did have numerous officers that participated in that with some of the civil unrest that was occurring further downtown earlier this year. And then our West Metro Drug Task Force has had some major drug busts in the last year, disrupting those drug lines coming into this area. One thing I wanted to highlight on the metrics there at the very bottom, just brand new thing that the police department started a year ago, is our UAV deployment. So we have been able to bring unmanned aerial vehicles into the department. They've already been able to use those this year alone on 57 different incidents, both in support of the fire department with some wild grass fire type support, as well as just using them for missing persons or to check out, to get a better view on an incident scene or what have you. So it's been hugely successful. Parks Department, led by Josh Lemons. Again, a lot of turnover. We had three different park superintendents in 2021, ending up with Josh, who we're both very glad to have on the team. We did, as you know, we added a full-time parks maintenance worker this year. Just approved tonight the addition of a part-time clubhouse and events person. So we're looking forward to seeing how that will all play out next year. At the golf course, our rounds played continues to be elevated. The one thing that the chart doesn't really show you is actually the previous couple of years. So 20 and 21 were banner years for the golf course. Some of the previous years, those rounds numbers are in the 6,000 to 7,000 round, as opposed to the last couple of years in the 13 and 12,000 rounds played, respectively. We've also had an uptick in volunteer activities, had a bunch of Eagle Scouts doing projects at our parks, which is always good stuff. And then a couple things with our more active parks. The dog park, you can see at the top there, ridiculous number of dog park passes sold for 21 and looking very similar going into 22. And then also with the addition of the Beaverwood Sports Field there at the very bottom, our sports field reservation numbers are declining, almost double from the previous year. So we'll get some good use. And Public Works. Some key achievements for them this year. Obviously, they maintain all of our infrastructure and do a great job of it. And they're probably the unsung heroes of the city staff, because nobody really comes in and tells us on a daily basis, well, it was great that the toilet flushed and the water came out of the faucet today. But the reason that those things work are because of these folks making sure that all works. One big project this year was a continuation of our water meter replacement project. So there are 254 more meters were changed out to more modern meters that will get some better accuracy on our readings. We did, as we do every year, did some lift station rehabilitations, some additional backup generators or lift stations to provide that reliability. And the biggest thing for them is starting in September, they took over responsibility for providing public works support to Spring Park. And then, again, we also implemented the point of sale program at the beginning of the year on the 1st of January. So, and point of sale, because I know Councilman Johnson's was asking me about it. So ended up the year with 97 inspections, and I think, if I remember right, around 14 we found that needed corrections. All been corrected. I think it's per se one that's had a
average cost of those corrections? Because I know that was,
I don't, because there's a draft, on that program, there could be a drastic difference between fully replacing a line, which can be quite expensive, to, some of them are just there's maybe some root intrusion, that just needs to be removed, maybe less. And then in the middle, which probably most of them, there's a lot of them where they were able to fix whatever the issue was by lining the existing pipe.
okay, cool.
How many was there that you needed to do?
I think 14. It says in the report specifically.
Yeah, it's 15%.
And then finally, engineering, staff of one. But we do have a great service contract with Bolton and Maine.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say.
I know.
But he's a great one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I can say that guy is fantastic. No, just idea of the things that as I transitioned into the administrator role, but still kept the engineering role. Still doing all the grading reviews and all that support for planning and zoning, both for developments and building permits. That's been going on fairly consistently. And then we were able to, and there's nothing really extraordinary about this, it's kind of normal jargon, but we were able to complete the projects we said we were going to complete, and initiate some others. There you can see the statuses and some more details in your packet on that. The biggest challenge we have engineering-wise going into the next year is just this will be year one for us on our newest MS4 permit, so the surface water management and our reporting and improvement requirements that are coming from the MPCA on how we do water management, surface water management. So we're working on that in the spring. And that's all I had for that department update. So if there's any questions you might have or any comments.
Great job, it was nice to see that, for sure. Thank you, Public Works, for having my toilet flushed and water run. It's all DJ. When I think of DJ, I think of toilets.
The DJ next year, we're gonna work on the Christmas lights over there, right?
We've got, just a quick update, I've got 12 of the 18 of them repaired.
Alright.
And there's photos that were supposed to be in last week's, that show some damage due to some rodent infiltration, so, we're working on getting them done. And I want to say compliments from Aaron, I appreciate that, but I've got a good crew behind me that makes me look good, so, otherwise I couldn't stand here before you.
Well said.
All right, great job.
All right, anything else for city administrator update?
I don't.
Okay, we're to mayor council report. Councilman Printer.
Oh.
You have like an extra one ready to go. Let's see, I don't have anything. Councilman Crosby.
Okay, I'm happy to see, and I'm really proud of the job that our parks people are doing. This is outstanding. Their vision has just been terrific, and it's exciting. So I want to send out a special thank you to them. I want to wish everybody happy Valentine's Day. This weekend, I've been married over 30 years, but something my wife and I have talked about doing for years is getting remarried in the Catholic Church, because we were married in the Baptist Church back in '91. So I proposed to my wife and to everybody's, on Saturday, to everybody's surprise, she said yes. And we're gonna renew our vows in our church in June, right on our anniversary, so we can keep the same anniversary date. So that was exciting. We went to the Cana dinner at our church, and it was wonderful. And I'm excited. And I know Patty was really surprised and taken back by it, but it was fun. It's a recommitment to each other, and it's just really nice. My girls were there, so that made it special too. So it was a fun weekend. And the Super Bowl, that was I don't know. You could have flipped that coin. I didn't care about either one of them. Go Vikings and But, it was a good weekend.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Councilmember Steels. Councilmember Johnson.
No, only thing they have is, we went to I sponsored a sled dog team and that they come out
Oh,
the race.
I love those pictures.
Down, and it's just a good reminder about, why, if we're gonna live here in this cold, we gotta find reasons to be out.
Is that kind of like jumping in the water? Embrace it.
And so it was 5 degrees when I got there in the morning, and the team that I sponsored, I was talking to them, and I asked it was a gal that was running the team, and I asked her what she thought of the temperature, because it was cold. She said it's too hot for the dogs.
Really?
Yeah, they like below 0 for those dogs. So anyway.
5 degrees is too cold.
But it's just a good reminder about the things that we do to try to use our parks and stuff all year round, and how can we do these things. And it's really nice to be outside with other people in the winter time or something. I'm very Minnesotan about it, certainly, but it was a great event, and Excelsior did a really good job of that.
That was a good fun.
Great, yeah.
I think Chili Open was this last weekend.
Yeah, they had a good turnout too.
Same kind of thing.
I still think there's that missing dog at, the lakes at Don't find her, she was a Rhodesian Ridgeback. They've got signs all over the place, so if you don't have Facebook, I'm sure you've seen the signs on the corners, but it's a dog that you're not supposed to approach, but just call the number.
Don't chase it.
Yeah, don't chase it, just try to pinpoint her location. God willing, she's still out there. Those are tough dogs, so she could be.
Well, I will echo, our Parks Commission is a great commission. We have a lot of great people. I remember coming to Brian, I think a couple of years ago, asking if he wanted to chair the committee. And probably didn't realize saying yes what it really meant at this point. But thanks for all you do and all the great people that we've got in there. Coming from a Parks Commission where we had nobody 6 or 7 years ago, and reconstituted that. So you guys have done a fabulous job. I want to say again, congratulations to you for, I was going to mention it, but so I'm glad you did. Also, the Orono dance team is going to state. I know you'll be happy about that. So they're going to state for kit and jazz for both of them. So ODTs, that's really cool. I know the airports are still having issues. My daughter had to go, went to Kansas City for a gymnastics meet this weekend, and they got stuck in the airport for 7 hours waiting to go there. So instead of getting there early Friday, they got there Friday at midnight. And then they had to compete Saturday morning bright and early, so it was a little chaotic, but everybody got home okay without any more undue
What's going on with the airport?
You know, I think between weather and not having enough pilots, because if there's too much time sitting, then there's not enough people that come in and take their spots. So it was just a conflux of just a lot of different issues. So happy Valentine's Day. Obviously, everybody's got dinner plans. I know I do. So
You just look at the clock.
I did. I have pickups during the night too, so it's kind of like running around everywhere. So never mind, it's a blast. So spring break is coming up soon, so then probably 2 or 3 meetings, a couple meetings will be at spring break, and so it should be a lot of fun as well. So with that, I guess we will. We won't adjourn our meeting, but we are going to go to closed session. So we're going to close the council as permitted by 13D05, subject 3A to evaluate the performance of the city administrator. So thank you all for coming, and I think I we're going to take 5 minutes break. We're going to make a motion to close the meeting. So order to open today's session.
I want to make a motion to open the closed session.
So moved.
What kind of beard do you drink? I don't know what we got
Yes, I wrote that down there. Me too.
Oh, I know it. No, yeah. Yeah. Good to see you. Next week, or next week. Right, good to see you. Yeah, good. Yeah.